Hi everyone, Petrik here. So for today's video, I'll be talking about all the books that I finished in the month of January and also February. And today, Choco Boy will appear in this video. I don't know how long because he's feeling anxious, okay? So I'm just going to have him with me while I'm recording this video. But yeah, I will be talking about all the books that I finished in the month of January and February. And in total, I read an embarrassing amount of 5 novels. Yeah, that's the total of books that I read in the month of January up to February. So in January, I managed to finish 3 books. In February, I only managed to finish 2 books. Yeah, so as I said, I've been in a fantasy slump right now. So it's been a bit difficult for me to get into this mood of wanting to read deeply. But at the same time, I still managed to read a lot of manga volumes. As I said, I don't think I will ever fall into a reading slump when I'm reading manga because they tend to be easier to read, even though when sometimes they contain a lot of words as well, but they still are easier to read compared to novels sometimes. But anyway, I will be talking about them now. Now let's start by talking about all the books that I finished in the month of January. First, in January, the first book that I finished, as some of you might know, it was a second read of Hyperion by Dan Simmons. So on the first time that I read Hyperion, I already loved it very much. There were 2 short stories or 2 novellas, specifically the detective and also the consul's tale, that did not click with me as much on my first time reading. But on my second time read, as I said in my video review, it improved so much. Even though I still consider the 2 detective and also the consul's tale to be my least favorite of all the collection of novellas in Hyperion, I still think on second read they were much better. But if you haven't read Hyperion yet, you can consider this, as many people have said, the Canterbury Tales in Space is a good pitch for the kind of format and storytelling structure that you will get from reading Hyperion. But honestly, I was wrong about Hyperion. Well, I was right that it was good, but I was wrong just how good it would be on second time reading. I think back during the first time read, I just had too much of a high expectations, and when some circumstance and also some storyline were not met, well, they kind of decreased my rating slightly. But on second time reading, I was able to appreciate it much more. And this time, I'm done reading The Fall of Hyperion as well. And I will be talking about that in my March video. Or maybe I will be making a video review on it. I'm still not sure, but we'll see. But The Fall of Hyperion, I can say for now, I did not read The Fall of Hyperion, I think 4 years ago when I finished reading Hyperion for the first time, and I consider that a mistake because The Fall of Hyperion is awesome. I heard mixed things about The Fall of Hyperion, but from me, I think it was epic, and it is the fitting conclusion to the Hyperion duology, I guess, because there will be the Endymion books as well for the Hyperion Cantos series. But that was the first book that I finished in the month of January. And then I will just talk about these 2 books at once, even though the second book, I finished it in the month of February. So I'm talking about Silverthorn and also A Darkness at Setanon. So I finally managed to finish the Riftwar Saga trilogy by Raymond Feist. And honestly speaking, I think they were alright. I can kind of see how this became something super popular back then. But on my first time reading, again, I haven't read Silverthorn and also A Darkness at Setanon all the way back when I first tackled Magician. Magician, on second time reading, was another improved reading experience, especially Magician Master, which is the second half of Magician. As I said, that was an improved reading experience. But Silverthorn and also A Darkness at Setanon, I think the quality kind of decreased overall, in my opinion, anyway, because Silverthorn, for those of you who don't know, this is a different kind of book, different kind of perspective compared to Magician, because in Magician, we follow the story of Puck and Thomas the most, and we see their development from their childhood up to their, well, superpower mode now. So me, as a reader, I wanted more out of Puck and Thomas in Silverthorn as well, but we did not get that in Silverthorn. Silverthorn is a story focused more on Aruta and Jimmy. In hindsight, I think I end up enjoying Jimmy and Aruta's story more than I expected, because I did not enjoy reading their story at all in Magician, but in Silverthorn, it was good. But I have kind of expected that Silverthorn would be that kind of novel. It is more adventurous, less magic, and also less focus on Puck and Thomas. Puck still appeared in Silverthorn, just not as much compared to the Magician. Thomas, on the other hand, barely appears in Silverthorn, but the entire book, it was still good, and I really enjoyed reading the character development of Aruta, Jimmy, and all the other side characters in Silverthorn. So overall, I still gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars rating. And then A Darkness at Setanon, which is the third book and the conclusion to the Riftwar Saga series, well, I think this one is another downgrade compared to Silverthorn. I gave A Darkness at Setanon a 3 out of 5 stars rating. Overall, still good, but I think by the time I reach A Darkness at Setanon, I'm still quite disappointed to see that the story still focused more on Aruta and Jimmy and the other characters rather than Puck and Thomas. Once again, I must be clear here, Puck and Thomas are still dominant in the storyline, especially in A Darkness at Setanon, but I just wanted more out of them rather than reading about Jimmy and Aruta. And I don't know whether I will be continuing with Riftwar Saga or not, or Riftwar Cycle to be more precise. The name of the universe where Riftwar Saga and Riftwar Empire takes place. Now, Riftwar Empire, now that I have read Riftwar Saga, I can do a second read of Riftwar Empire. But in my opinion, on my first time reading of these two series, I think Riftwar Empire trilogy that Raymond E. Feist wrote with Johnny Words is much better. That one is one of my top favorite trilogies of all time. I don't regret reading Riftwar Saga at all. I still think that overall it is a good series, but I wanted more out of the series. The conclusion, at the very least, was epic, and it was satisfying for the trilogy or quartet, depending on the edition you're reading for this series. So after this, I only have 2 books that I have read. Is Choco sleeping? I think he's sleeping. What? Am I boring you, boy? But yeah, the other book that I read, let's talk about this one. This is one of the most, I think this is in many people's most anticipated book list of this year. And I'm talking about Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. And this is, of course, one of my most anticipated books of the year as well. And overall, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars rating. So it is a great book. But I think this book should come with some caveat, especially regarding the first half or the first portion of Katabasis. First of all, I think you might have seen some videos regarding which books to read first before you read Katabasis. Now, they will be useful for you, but they are not mandatory. They are not required reading. You can still enjoy Katabasis without reading them. But if you want to get more out of the stuff being talked about in Katabasis, then there is benefit from reading books such as Dante's Inferno and all that. Yeah, sorry boy. Okay, hold on. Choco want to go, I think. But yeah, anyway, back to Katabasis here. If you have read Babel by R.F. Kuang, which in my opinion is still R.F. Kuang's best book, because the topic being discussed there, especially about the translation, language, and how it affects the magic system in that book, it all worked out so well for me. Etymology and everything, it just worked. But in Katabasis, the first half, just like the first half of Babel, is very academic. And the topic being discussed in Katabasis, I don't think it was something that I enjoyed the most. I still enjoyed it, but it is not my favorite aspect of Katabasis. And overall, some of the philosophy discussion, I do not think it affects the plot line of Katabasis that much. So because of that, it did end up slowing the pacing quite a bit for me for the first half of Katabasis, especially because Alice and also Peter, the main motivation and the main secret behind their reason to go to hell to save their tutor, well, they are not explained until we are into the second half of Katabasis. So I think that's really where the book starts to get really good for me. The second half of Katabasis was amazing, and I think everything was progressing at a really good pace, and the ending was very satisfying for me. Although I still do not think this book counts as romance. I've seen some people calling the book Katabasis as romance, and I do not think that is a proper classification of the book. Romance barely play a part, in my opinion, toward the storyline of Katabasis. But again, I will probably make a fully detailed review for Katabasis closer to the release date, which is still a while in August 2025. So that's still 5 months from now. But I would say that this was a great book, and I think many people will probably enjoy reading Katabasis. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how this one will turn out in the future. But again, let me know if you want a more detailed review from me regarding Katabasis. But as I mentioned in the beginning, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars rating. Another great book from R.F. Kuang. Not as amazing as Babel in my opinion, but still a great book regardless. I think I have read everything by her except Yellow Face, but that's Yellow Face is not a fantasy novel. I will still read that someday, but for now, yeah, that's my thoughts regarding Katabasis. And then finally, the last book that I read, it was a reread of a novella because, well, the TV show adaptation is coming. This is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first book in the Murderbot Diary series, and the TV show adaptation is coming in the month of May. And plus, because I'm in the middle of a fantasy slump right now, so, well, maybe you might want to take into account the opinion that I just gave to some of these fantasy books because I'm in the middle of fantasy slump right now. But because I'm in the middle of that, I want to read some shorter books as well. So I'm reading Murderbot Diaries in anticipation of the TV show adaptation because I tend to enjoy the TV show adaptation being produced by Apple TV. I think they produce some great sci-fi adaptation and I'm looking forward to watching Murderbot. Before that, I want to read more of the Murderbot books, especially because people keep telling me that Murderbot Diaries keeps getting better and better with each book. I have read only All Systems Red a long time ago, and on reread, it's my feelings and experience are more or less the same. I think it's slightly improved on my second time reading, but I still end up giving this one, I think, a 3.5 or maybe a 3 stars rating out of 5 stars. So yeah, that's really my overall reading for novels and novellas in the month of January and February. I'm hoping that March will be a better reading month in terms of quality and also quantity. Now, as for my books of the month, compiling these 2 months, well, it will have to go to Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. As for manga volumes, I read a lot of manga, and these 2 months, the past 2 months, I think I read in total 30 volumes. I read like 22 volumes of My Hero Academia up to from volume 20 up to the end of My Hero Academia. It has become one of my top favorite completed manga series of all time. Now, I don't know the general reception or the general opinion toward My Hero Academia. I tend to be very, very disjointed from the manga community when I read manga books. So I don't know, well, probably except One Piece because you cannot avoid One Piece. One Piece is everywhere, okay? One Piece, Berserk, and all the very popular stuff. But My Hero Academia, it was popular as well, but I'm not in any discourse or in any discussion about the manga or anime. So I don't know what's going on or the general reception. But for me, it is one of my favorite manga series. I think the final battle was epic. It was so great seeing all the main heroes channeling the usage of their power to the maximum capability and fight the villains. It was so good. And I binge read the final battle. And the ending, in my opinion, was satisfying as well. Some bittersweet moments, some truly epic moments. And I love the series. I think I can safely recommend this to those of you who love reading superhero stories and who loves reading the usage of magic system being done properly. I think it was done really well in My Hero Academia. Not the perfect type of magic system being used. We can always do with some more explanations, but I think it was still handled expertly. And Kohei Horikoshi illustrations, my god, in the final battle, it was truly top-notch. Some of the best illustrations I have seen in manga panels. And other than My Hero Academia, I also read some volumes in Spy Family, trying to catch up to the latest volumes. And of course, Spy Family, you know the drill, cozy fantasy, slice of life. It is a great and fun manga series, and I can recommend that to practically everyone. Anya, Forja, Lloyd, Bon, and also Yor. I think these 4 are just so chaotic. I love seeing them all together. And yeah, I'm up to the latest volumes, I'm up to the latest manga chapters, and I really enjoyed Spy Family. I will be continuing to read Spy Family for sure. And yeah, I think other than that, I read some catching up to some manga series like Dan and then Blue Lock and many others, but I don't think I'll be talking about them all in this wrap-up video. But that pretty much covers all the books and manga that I read in the month of January and also February. As I said, these are not what I would say an amazing reading month. There are, I think, as I said, 5 books in total, plus about 20 manga volumes. That's usually the number of books that I read in a single month. So yeah, hopefully the month of March this month will be better. I have finished 2 books in the month of March, so that's not bad. Hopefully I can finish more. I'll be talking about them more in my March wrap video. But anyway, do let me know what you think about all the books that I've finished this year so far, I guess. And of course, do tell me which one is your favorite among the books that I have read this year so far. As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.